of the brave which have brought results. And the sweat of their labors, toils of the brave which have brought results.
There's a big question. So ask yourself, how many people showed up? But I think this time around, we have to do that. We have to do that for our right, because it's going beyond. Can you imagine the whole this semester? There's no SSC week. It means they're not working as a SSC. They're not doing their things well. So we must fight. We must fight. Jeffrey, we need the support. Guys, let's convince our ladies to support us. There's a big issue.
SRC week is coming. SRC week is coming. Is coming, and it coming on coming here. SRC week is coming.
All right, good afternoon. It's 2 p.m. here in Ghana, and this is the Leadership Focus on Radio GIJ 97.7 MHz. We are coming to you live from our studio here at the 32nd Gamal Abdel Nasser Avenue, and I am your host, Ramat Bashiru. This is Leadership Focus once again, and on Leadership Focus, we shape tomorrow's discourse. We had conversations last week with the organizing secretary of the SRC, and also we invited the Defendant General of the 16th General Assembly, Mauli Wega, and the former Chief Whip Ransford Dogbo, and we had a lot of conversations just to know the roles of the General Assembly members in the SRC, and then what they do to represent the student body whenever there is a GA setting. But today we are trying to shift our attention from the General Assembly and then focus on the SRC as an administration, and we are focusing on this particular office, which is the Office of the Financial Secretary. And very soon my guest, Adoma Sapon, the Financial Secretary of UniMAC-IJ, will join me in studio for the discussion. It's going to be a one-on-one with her. She's not yet in, but while we are waiting for her, let's take a listen to these concerns from some students.
The GA was inconsiderate to approve such a budget. In fact, for all I know, to even approve a normal budget, a standard budget, the board will have to even sit on the budget and then really deliberate as to the effects that will come after approving the budget. But then I don't think the GA board did that. A budget, and they still couldn't, object to this budget with deficits. Then I think they are not working well. Like, it's really going to harm the whole school, because I'm sure by next semester they will increase the SRC dues because of this thing. It really pains me that this thing has happened.
I think it is bad because we can't pay SRC dues, and we electing representatives to go to the GA and help us. SRC, just SRC, what are they going to use that amount of money for? So for me, some may, reject it, others will, approve. So as we used to say, majority carries the vote. But I think it is bad. It is very, very bad. From now onwards, we as students, it should be something that should interest us to follow something like this. Yeah.
they have approved it. It's their own cup of tea. That one, it doesn't concern me at all. They should take it. Me, right now, I'm about to complete. It doesn't even matter to me. So it's their own cup of tea, okay?
Interesting. So we heard from some students who are sharing their thoughts on the state of the SRC finances and also the budget. We already know that last Friday there was a GA sitting where the financial secretary presented the budget for this second semester to members of the General Assembly for them to approve it. And so we needed to get student perspective on it. And we heard some students already. They said they are very disappointed to the extent of the amount of money that the General Assembly, together with the financial secretary, approved for the academic semester in terms of the organizing secretary presented the budget for the SRC week, and the women's commissioner also wasn't around, but her budget was read to the House. The budget of the women's commissioner is yet to be approved though. So these are students raising concerns. They think that it is not appropriate for General Assembly to approve such an amount of money. They do not critically look at the items in the budget before they approve of it. So the financial secretary will help us understand why this is the case. We also have students saying they do not know whether there is even a budget, to the extent that there is going to be an SRC week this semester. They said they've not heard anything about the budget. They don't even know. They are blaming it on poor communication on the side of the SRC. They say that they don't feel the presence of the administration because the administration has failed in several ways to communicate to the student body, and also they think that they are those who voted for the administration. For that reason, the administration should consider them. They should come to them and ask them for whatever they need so that it will be implemented or it will be added to the budget for approval. So if the financial secretary joins us in studio, she will help us to understand if the SRC executives actually joins or moves to the students body to seek for their approval or seek for their needs, what they expect in the budget before they draw a budget and present it to the General Assembly. Before then, let's listen to these concerns from other students as well.
In the t-shirts and everything they've been doing, it's not necessary because some of us, we don't wear the t-shirt. They should use the money for something that will have impact in the school, like painting of the school or as in fixing of the switch and the washroom. Have been here. People are complaining about the washroom, and they should stop the souvenirs as in the t-shirt.
We don't know what they are doing at the moment, and the finance are supposed to bring us the budget for we the students to also know what we can also do or partake in. But since we have no knowledge about what the budget is about, we the students, we are unable to participate in, and I think their performance is very poor to us the students.
I mean, we have to up our games. People have to be held accountable for everything, and you guys can do better because we had so much faith in you. That's the main reason why we elected you in power. Most of the delegates or whatever they were that stood for the positions didn't stand alone. They stood with opponents. They had opponents, but we voted for them because we believed in them. And so far, I'm disappointed. Like, I won't lie. I'm totally disappointed. So yeah, you guys should do better. Because if you are doing this now, even here in this GIJ, within this place, what are you going to do? They are giving the power to handle funds for Ghana or like do bigger things for. What are you going to do? You are going to scatter everywhere. You are going to make things worse. Please do better.
Interesting. So the last person who just spoke, she said, if these people are given the chance, the opportunity to handle things at the national level, they are going to scatter everywhere. They are going to create confusions all over just because of their poor managerial skills just on campus here. And yes, we heard some of them, their concerns, and the clerk for the General Assembly is here since the financial secretary is not yet in. She was present during the last GA sitting on Friday, and then she will help us understand some of the things that transpired during the meeting. And students saying that they are very disappointed. They are members of the General Assembly, and then the financial secretary has really accepted such an amount of budget to be passed. We know that the organizing secretary was present during the General Assembly meeting, and then he was there to defend his budget that he presented to the House. For that reason, his budget has been passed, but the Women's Commissioner was not around. For that reason, her budget is on hold for now until she presents, or she goes to the House physically. They are unable to present approve her budget. So now is here, and then she will help us understand it. Now you are welcome to Leadership Focus.
Thank you very much.
Naa Kai is the clerk of the 16th General Assembly. Interesting. Thank you for joining us. I'm grateful for your time. Yes, while we wait for the financial secretary to join us, can you please take us through some of the things that transpired during the sitting on Friday?
Okay, right. So thank you very much once again for giving me this platform. And so last week, Friday, the first budget for the second semester was presented to the General Assembly for scrutiny due to some challenges that occurred in the first sitting. So it had to be moved to the second sitting for deliberation and scrutiny.
So the budget was expected to be passed during the first General Assembly meeting.
Well, it was part of the agenda that we were going to hear the reading or the presentation of the budget. And usually right after the presentation of the budget from the financial secretary, the House deliberates on it, and then it's being approved. What needs to be slashed is being slashed, and if there's any commendations or recommendations to be adjusted in the budget, it's being sent back to be worked on before it's being approved. So before a budget is being approved, it has to go through several deliberations and scrutiny, and I think that is what transpired at the second sitting.
So we heard some students, some say they're very disappointed.
Yeah.
To the extent that this amount of money, GA sat down, and then after the financial secretary presented the semester's budget to them, they approved such an amount. Because if you check the SRC week alone, only on Monday, we have 4,860 Ghana cedis.
Right.
So, and then we also have on Sunday, we have 4,860 Ghana cedis. So we've not even dived into the total yet.
Yeah.
So were there considerations with the items that the organizing secretary presented to the financial secretary to present to the House? Was the House considerate to elaborate and tackle the issues, the items in the budget?
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to make general knowledge that in scrutinizing the budget, items on the budget are being taken item by item, right? So once the budget is done, once they are being the financial secretary finishes presenting, the House now takes it item by item for scrutiny. So that was what happened on Friday.
Do you only scrutinize it?
No, that is in my earlier sentence. I established the fact that it is being scrutinized, and what needs to be slashed off is being slashed off, and what needs to be amended or adjusted is being sent back.
So this is
to
the
office.
Is the conversation. Some students, when I played their voice, they said the administration, as the executives, do not come to them to take their opinions or what they need so that they will add it to the budget. So how do you determine this is not necessary? So let's slash this part out from the budget.
Okay, so not apparently, the fact is that the representative, that is why we have the General Assembly representatives. They represent the various constituencies of which they are of which have vested in them the power to come and represent them in the House. So these General Assembly representatives serve as a channel of communication between the SRC, the General Assembly, authorities, and then the student bodies. So that is why they voted for a rep to come to the House to represent them. So it is now the duty of the General Assembly rep to go back to the students and ask them, are there any concerns? Are there any challenges you'd want the SRC to take up? Is there anything you want management to take up? Or is there anything you'd want the House to look at? And if the reps that you elected are working effectively, then you realize that they come round with polls, sometimes based on one-on-one conversations. They gather these consents and then bring it to the General Assembly for deliberations. So in terms, literally, it means that whatever these reps are going to say is on behalf of the general students. And that is why the deliberation, unless of course they are not representing their constituents well. Yes, but then that is why the SRC comes to the House, for them to have a direct interaction with the students, which is the reps.
Now they've presented the budget. You've approved them. What criteria do you use to determine which one is important, the priorities? How do you determine the spending priorities to the extent that, no, the organizing secretary's budget? Because I learned that the financial the vice president's budget hasn't been passed. It hasn't been approved yet. You've not allocated SRC funds to support his initiatives. So how do you manage to prioritize which item should be spent? Which item should we allocate money so that it will be spent?
Okay, so based on past events, you know, before these SRC executives come into power, they have their manifestos. They have a list of items that they want to achieve. So as for them, when they come, it is what they have set out to do, or what they have told the people that they are going to do, for which reason they were voted into power, that they are going to try their best to achieve. So it is their budget, whatever they intend to do, it is their budget that they present for us to deliberate. However, when they bring these things, we request for invoices, for evidence. And because there are people who have experience, and from past events that have been hosted by the SRC executives, they look at it by then and then go by the constitution to scrutinize which activities to be prioritized over that.
Basically, the budget approvals comes from what the law is saying, what the law says, the activities that you think that it's in the constitution.
So the constitution doesn't necessarily state what activity in particular you partake or you take out.
Let's take SRC week, for example, because I was present during the last year sitting, and members raised the concerns that yes, since it's not going to be a full week, and then there's going to be lectures ongoing while we are celebrating the SRC week. For that reason, why don't we take it away, or better still, do it a weekend something from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Exactly.
And then someone mentioned that, and if you read the GIJ constitution, it says there should be, or there must be, an SRC week celebration.
Yes.
That is why I'm saying that some parts in the constitution
spells
out that
SRC
there should be
week,
an activity to be celebrated.
But it doesn't tell you what activity to do. For instance, whether you should have Saturday color walk into the adventure.
It did not say you should have a full week. It just said there should be an SRC week.
Okay, so now the General Assembly is not only made up of regular students. In fact, the school is not only made up of regular students. We have weekend students, and we have top-up students who have their lectures in the evening. Exactly, and then so if you are going to base on the fact that during the week there are lectures, then what about the weekend students? Because that is when they also have their lectures. So if you are going to move all the activities to weekend, then it means they are not going to be involved in the SRC activities, of which they have also paid dues for, and they are entitled to also enjoy such activities by the SRC. So you look at it from a general perspective and not just from the regular students.
Interesting. Also, during the GA meeting, when I played the voice, some said they are very disappointed to the amounts that the GA has approved, as in the SRC budget that was presented to the House. They are very disappointed because they think that the amount is very huge. For that reason, it's going to affect future administrations. They think members of the General Assembly do not ask questions. Yes, you said you scrutinize it. How effective is it?
So that is what I'm saying, that
because
if you don't get,
we realize that whenever you try to scrutinize an item in the budget, and the one who presented or is proposing that particular item on the budget defends it, the speaker asks, who is in? Or is anyone ready to bring up a motion or
a counter motion?
Exactly.
So you go by it's like, let me use the scenario in a courtroom, right? So for a lawyer to come to defend or to oppose a case without evidence or any constitutional provision to back it up, then your argument is invalid. So it all boils down to the kind of representatives that you select. If your representatives are not abreast with the Constitution and they don't know the processes that are involved in raising, like how to channel your or how to argue your consent,
how to make
your consent valid.
Okay.
Yes, then that is what is going to happen. So everything that is happening is actually constitutional, because the Constitution says if you raise a motion and you don't get a seconder, you are being given
expelled.
Not immediately. You are being given a chance to explain yourself.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. That is what the Constitution states. 2 minutes to explain yourself, elaborate more, and try and get the other reps to also side with you. But if by the time you are finishing, you don't get any seconder, then your motion will be terminated. I mean, it won't be considered. That is it. So if it means if you get only one person raising a concern or raising a counter motion and the person doesn't get a backer, your point is invalid. Because for a motion to be moved or for a motion to be adopted in the House, you need to move the motion and then you need a seconder to second the motion.
Interesting.
Then, even after seconding the motion, the House will now vote yeah or no in agreement or in disagreement. If the House disagrees, you now come back. So it means there will be a counter motion. If there's a counter motion, each side are being given the opportunity to also defend their motions to try and get the House to side with them. So whoever is able to do that has the case adopted.
So as members of the General Assembly, now let's come to promises and then realities.
Right.
The executives, that's the SRC, before they were elected, they had promises that actually convinced voters to vote for them. We are focusing on the financial sector of the SRC. Now, the financial secretary says when she was campaigning or aspiring for the position, she says that, yes, I am going to organize a monthly town hall meeting for transparency and accountability of the SRC. She is going to organize a town hall meeting, and just recently, she organized one. How is GA scrutinizing some of these things? Do you bring them back to book? Let's say after there is an activity, you've allocated and approved the fund for a particular activity. When they come back to their house for another sitting, do you bring them to book? Do you try and then check the things that they said they will do and then check the reality? So the promises versus the reality. Because The financial secretary, yes, she said monthly. So the underlying word here is monthly. So she said she was going to, and students are very interested in that. Because when I played the voice, you heard some students, they say they don't even know what is going on with the SRC finances. So how do you bring them on track as members of the General Assembly?
Okay. So last semester, in one of our very sittings, I think in between the semester thereabout, issues were when it's not every day that executives are invited to the house. They can't, in fact, they can't come to the house until they are being invited, unless they are coming as an observer or yes. So when they are being brought, that is why there's a session for AOBs, any other business as part of the agenda. Every GA sitting there's AOBs. That is any other business, which means any consent from the members of the General Assembly. I mean, the speaker cannot be the one dictating. It's not an autocratic environment. It's democracy we are practicing here. So it's it's what there is the consensus of the General Assembly, which is the consensus of their constituents that they are supposed to raise in the House. Like as I said, as I started with, in our previous sitting, one of the General Assembly members questioned the SRC president about the bus that she promised on. She promised it was part of her campaign.
Yeah,
it was
her
part
policies,
of it was part of policies. Exactly. And she made it known to the House. I mean, she established that they were on they were on the path of making a deal with a transport company. However, there's issues with monetary values and all that, so it has stalled the process a bit. Initially, they intended to fix the old bus, but looking at the issues that are wrong with the bus, the cost that comes with it, it is worth buying a new bus, and that is why they were on the path of getting a new transport, of which till date it hasn't been finalized.
Getting a new transport from which coffers? Is it from their personal
pocket? The proposal, no, they wouldn't. It's supposed, if everything they set out to do actually usually comes from the budget, unless they voluntarily say they are going to fund it themselves.
So that is the challenge. Now the challenge is some of them made promises that they were going to undertake some activities on campus,
right,
using their pocket money. Even the organizing secretary, it was part of his policies that he is going to undertake certain activities even without getting funds.
He's going to look for sponsorship.
Exactly, and use his own pocket money. Right. So now what's happening? How GA members, can't you bring them to book? You made this promise. So let's say items on the SRC organizing secretary's budget. Can't you look at the items and say, since you made this promise, we are going to slash this out, but better still, you can also use your pocket money as you promised the student body you were going to do. Don't you think just so when you do that, there's going to be some kind of transparency and trust among the leaders and then the executives?
Okay, so just for clarity, I can't really talk on the path of a General Assembly rep because on the leadership board as a clerk and not as a GA rep. I've been a General Assembly representative before, so that is where the knowledge and the experience is coming from. However, it still boils down to the representatives because you are the reps of your constituents. If you have a matter or a concern from your constituent that needs to be attended to in terms of checking the list of items they set out to do in their campaigns, then it is up to the General Assembly members to raise it up for discussion, for deliberation. And then further recommendations or motions can be moved. So you can move a motion to make the SRC executive act in accordance to the Constitution. That is the duty of the General Assembly rep. But if you come to the House and you're only going to move by the agenda, then it means you are not serving your constituents right as a General Assembly rep. So it all boils down to the reps back again. You are supposed to voice out your consent. You are supposed to, that is why you are there. That is why they voted for you. You opted for the position. So you should be up to the task. Yeah.
Interesting. And the House is not in any time soon willing to find ways of generating money back to the SRC coffers. So I'm not sure the House is willing to do that.
Honestly and truthfully, some members, I personally interacted with some members of the House, and during the scrutiny, I remember vividly that the Speaker kept on reminding the House that they should be very vigilant with the budgets that has been presented, and that there's a deficit. So before they approve anything, they should be very, very vigilant and know what to approve.
So
and
you already
what
cautioned the House.
No, he repeated this several times, that members of the House be very, he said, let me quote him, open your eyes. He said, open your eyes, be very vigilant. So those were the words of the Speaker. However, they still went ahead to approve the budget in hopes that the events that are going to be organized are high revenue generating events.
Interesting.
So in the course of organizing these events, revenue is going to be generated. So that is how they intend to generate the money to cover the deficits in the account, or whatever the figures that are showing on the budget.
Aside that, other executives also, the financial secretary, she made some promises that she was going to find ways to generate money back to the coffers by selling pastries, ice cream cake, and all those things, just so we can get money back to the SRC coffers. Members of the House,
right
now you are trying, like you said, you are trying to generate money back to the SRC coffers
through the events
that you organize, like the Women's Commissioners events she organized, of which we don't know how far with the 15,000.
Well, currently the WUCOM's budget hasn't actually been approved yet,
but
it is yet to be looked at.
The last Akwaba,
so that is for last semester.
The revenue she was able to generate.
Well, that is why.
Why don't you just, the financial secretary, she also promised to generate money, to find ways of generating money back to the SRC coffers. Why don't you caution her?
Okay, so I can't speak on behalf of the financial secretary. However, what I can say is that a business desk for the SRC has been established, of which I'm sure the general public, I'm not too confident that the representatives have informed their constituents yet about. There's a business deck that has been established. However, I don't know the particular activities that are going to be
a business
run. Yes, is a business. It was read to the House in the last sitting. It was at the beginning of so it was just to inform the General Assembly that, okay, this is an initiative from the SRC body, and this is what they intend to do. However, I didn't personally, I was concentrated on my minutes. I didn't quite catch the content unless I refer, of which I don't have my documents with me at the moment. So I can't speak on behalf of the financial secretary as to what activities and why she's not sticking to her promises.
But can't the House put her on track?
Like I said, I'm part of the leadership board. The leadership board does not dictate for members what they should say, what they should do, or how they should go about it. The Constitution spells out what General Assembly...
So you don't have the right to speak when there is a sitting?
No, unless the Speaker gives me an opportunity to speak to the House. However, I cannot vote and I cannot decide along with the General Assembly reps for any motion that is being moved.
Interesting. Now let's talk about time. The time you come for GA sitting. Don't you think it's as a reason? That's actually the reason why you approve of anything that comes to you, the house. Don't you think that's time? Because last meeting was expected to start at 3 p.m. and it was 5 p.m. and the meeting was yet to commence.
Okay.
So don't you think that is actually influenced because they're in a hurry
to leave?
Exactly.
Right. So it is the responsibility, once again, is the responsibility of the General Assembly reps to ensure that things are being done effectively in the
But
house.
do you punish
However,
them? You are not willing to punish any of them, and I'm not sure you are.
People have been punished actually.
Mm.
The Constitution states that once a member acts out of decorum, the person is to be sanctioned. And I think an issue happened with a former General Assembly rep, former Honorable Mr. Ransford Dogbo.
He was the former chief whip of the 15th General Assembly.
The previous General Assembly, and not the current General Assembly. So he's currently on suspension indefinitely, and that is why he's no longer part of the House. It was as a result of his act out of decorum. That is why. However, in our last sitting, this very sitting, the Speaker emphasized that he's not going to tolerate any misconduct amongst
members
general,
of the General
yes,
Assembly.
and that so records now we will be publishing the attendance and then activities of the General Assembly reps when they come to the House, so that their constituents will know that the person, this is how well our rep is representing us in the House. So it doesn't look like it is the House that is not being efficient. If the House will go on well, it will depend on the General Assembly reps and how well versed they are with the Constitution. And that is why the Speaker always encourages us to have a hard copy of the student's constitution alongside the student's handbook to enable you familiarize yourself with the laws of the school.
Interesting. Now, let's back to finances. Have there been any significant budget shortfalls? Have you had any significant budget shortfalls? Have there been any budgets that have been presented to the House that has actually affected the coffers of the SRC?
Okay. This is a personal opinion. I mean, I can't make decisions for the House because I'm just a clerk. However,
you are there. You preside over the meeting whenever there is a session.
Right. We are only
you actually hear whatever is going on.
Exactly.
That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
Because maybe the House will come in a discussion or a conversation between the Financial Secretary and the House as to some of the shortfalls that they've had. You might have heard some of them.
That is why I said whatever I'm coming to say is in my opinion. I didn't land. However, I was given a context so that I do not misquote or pass out any false information. So in my opinion, I honestly believe in my heart that the Grandeur Fest has a lot of activities in it and allocations.
The Grandeur Fest, that's the last thing on the SRC organizing secretary's last but one on the organizing secretary's budget that he presented to the House.
Okay, so it wasn't presented office by office. I mean, all the activities under the SRC week involves all the SRC executives. So it's a collective budget. It wasn't broken down. However, when it's time for presentation and there's the need for more deliberation, whoever brought the budget is being summoned to give elaboration and deliberation on the subject matter. So I think that the Grandeur Fest has way too much money or budgets going into it. In the sense that Total the current amounts of money in our cafes is 67,147.02 Ghana cedis. And out of that 67,000, about 67,000, the Grand Office alone is estimated to take 38,500 Ghana cedis, which is more than half of
You're
the
listening
money,
to Radio GIJ,
which is more than
97.7
half of the money in the
learning
cafes.
curve.
So if
That's
just
the Grand Waffles
that is
alone,
just
more than half.
for the Grand Waffles, it is, and the amount, let me say it again, is
You're listening to Radio
38,500
GIJ,
Ghana cedis.
97.7
And we have
the learning curve.
67,147.02 Ghana cedis in our cafes.
67,000.
Yes.
And the money is 38,000.
35,000. Okay, 38,500
So
Ghana
more than
cedis.
half
Yeah.
of the money.
Exactly. That is
And
why I'm saying, in my opinion,
so why did GA approved? Wasn't any item slashed?
there were concerns raised. Serious concerns were raised by members. However, they seem to succumb to the explanation of the organizing secretary, and at the end, they approved a budget of 30,000 for the Grand Office. So instead of approving a budget of 38,500, a budget of 30,000 was granted or was approved for the Grand Office. In the sense that in his explanation, just to give a little detail,
Clarity.
yes, he stated that he is getting an A-class artist. And when we talk of an A-class artist, is those artists that are at the top, the top musicians or celebrities.
Before you continue, I want us to listen to this.
Mobile SRC week is coming. SRC week is coming. Makofa patapa. Then mo shana is coming, and coming on coming here. Mama SRC week is coming. Be able to come patapa and ambrem.
Interesting. So you heard the lady over there.
Well, yeah.
So is it as a result of what she said, reason they are going to bring the A-class artists?
Well, as the organizing secretary, it is in his best interest to organize the best of events and activities for his students. I'm not saying that is what he has done, but then I'm saying it is in his best interest to ensure that he gives the student body the best experience, and that is why he is proposing these activities. And if you should know that if you are not, as a student, just like you said, you are not looking at entertaining patapa or any underground artist. So if you are looking for an A-class artist, then I mean you are the same people encouraging the executives to put us in this kind of state, because they are bringing you what you want.
They are not cutting their
They are not exactly. They are bringing you what you say you want. So if this is what I have to do to get you what you want, then that is what has to be done. And I think that is what.
Do the house do a research to know that this is what this executive is presenting?
Yes.
For that
So I
reason,
mentioned invoices. I mentioned invoices. There's nothing that comes to the house that is not backed by either a contract that will be approved or without invoices. And aside the invoices, comparisons, checks are being done in comparison with the previously approved budgets to know whether you are exploiting the coffers or you are giving us a reasonable estimate. So you realize that even amongst the General Assembly members, there are people who have experience in events management, who have experience in organizing events
Plumbing.
some of these sectors. So when you bring a budget, I've been in the house and there have been several deliberations and slashing of budgets because the amount seemed too small for what they claim they want to do, or the amount is more than what it is supposed to be. So if before the budget is being approved, it goes through all this. So if they realize that the money you are saying is too small, it's either you are just bringing it to the house so that you go and spend the money yourself, because what you are saying you want to do, the money you are asking for cannot achieve that.
Interesting.
Or if it is more than that, you are being asked to go and do a better research, whilst the audit and research committee in the house also do their job, and we have a financial committee in the house as well. They also do their jobs and do this research alongside the SRC executives. So the budget actually does go through a lot of scrutiny.
We'll dive into the details to know the roles the audit committee is actually playing now, and then the financial secretary and the financial committee and the house, what they are doing now. But before we have to go for a short breather, before we go for the breather, I want you to react to these questions. You can choose any of them to react to. The issue of the women's commissioner, which she was expected to return an amount she was going to generate from the Aquaba Week celebration. I want you to react to it. And also, issues of executives promising students, and when they come into power, they are unable to fulfill their promises. I want you to react to these two things. You can choose any of them to react to.
Come again with the second statement.
Executives, the current administration, they've made a lot of promises that whenever they get the vote and they get the opportunity to be in power, this is what they are going to do. I already mentioned some of the policies that the financial secretary promised. The president also had her Beyond the Lecture Hall initiative and other things. And the women's commissioner herself also had some activities that she says she was going to do with her own pocket money, especially when you visit our washrooms and students are complaining about it. So the performance of the SRG administration in general, I want you to react to these two things: the women's commissioner performance and the performance of the administration in general. You can choose any of which to react to.
Okay, let's take the SRC performance in general. One thing that needs to be established is the fact that until you are put in the position of the executives, all you can do is to make estimations and then make promises. But until you find yourself in the shoes or in the office, before you wouldn't know what exactly transpires in these offices. So you realize that a lot of people make promises and they get to wherever they want to be, and they realize that circumstances will not allow them to, they won't be able to achieve everything that they've set out to do. However, the best they can do is to they have to prioritize their items, what they want to be remembered for. And so I think in the shoes, putting myself in the shoes of them, if I'm to find myself there, I would prioritize what is most important and what is paramount to the interest of the students. And then the latter ones, maybe if the upcoming SRC executives would like to take it up, they can also come and do their bits. So it's a sure thing that it's not everything that they promise that they'll be able to achieve. However, if they are able to set out the most important ones and then achieve those ones, then we can say, well, as the Ghanaian adage goes, nipa beyebi wambe yenina. Yes. So that's
Let's
also
look at their overall performance.
Okay. So I'll say that the semester hasn't ended yet. We are now in the third week, which is we are now in the mid week of the third week, right? So we still have a long way. We cannot necessarily grade their performance, but looking at the activities that, I mean, there was one of the executives campaigned about a sick bay. I think it was included in the budget, and it was treated with the house didn't take it lightly. So they made sure that everything that is required, the sponsorship, partnership, and health personnel that are needed for this sick bay to come into existence are being put into measures. And so a budget under the sick bay has been approved. It's part of the just approved budget. And so we are looking forward to having a sick bay, hopefully. I can't give a timeline, but then hopefully by the end of their administration, we should have a sick bay to aid students on campus. So if these 1-2 things are being put into place, then perhaps let's just put aside the negatives. I mean, everybody has good side and bad. If they are putting in these efforts, then we can say they haven't completely abandoned the cause.
There is, okay.
Yes, there's still time to accomplish a lot. So there's still more.
The voice starts
Exactly.
They say they know them.
Yes.
Reason they voted for them.
Yes.
They can do better.
Yes.
They still have the opportunity.
There's still room for more.
Yes. Let's go for a short breather and then we'll be back. This is the leadership focus on Radio GIJ 97.7 megahertz. If you are just tuning in, my guest in studio is Rosalinda Naa Kai Clerk of the 16th General Assembly, and then we are discussing matters so far as the SRC finances and the student cafes is concerned. We've been able to analyze some of the things, reasons GA approved such an amount of budget presented to them. So let's go for the quick breather. When we are back, we have more for you.
Do or partake in. But since we have no knowledge about what the budget is about, we the students, we are unable to participate in. And I think the
that stood for the positions didn't stand alone. They stood with opponents. They had opponents.
Approve such a budget. In fact, for all I know, to even approve a normal budget, a standard budget, the board will have to even sit on the budget and then really deliberate as to the effects that will come after approving the budget. But then I don't think the GA board did that. A budget, and they still couldn't, object to this budget with deficits, then I think they are not working well. Like, it's really going to harm the whole school, because I'm sure by next semester they will increase the SRC dues because of this thing. It really pains me that this thing has happened.
Thanks.
Interesting. Welcome back from that breather, and this is still Leadership Focus on Radio GIJ, and I am still your host, Ramat Bashiru, and my guest is Naa Kai Rosalinda. But we already saw flyers flying around that we are going to have a one-on-one conversation with the Financial Secretary of UniMAC-IJ. But we are sorry to announce to you that she was unable to join us for the conversation. Better still, next time we are going to have her on the show so that we really put the concerns and the questions, all the things that we need to know about the state of the SRC financial resources. We will get to know better. So our guest was unable to join us, but we managed to bring the clerk of the 16th General Assembly, Rosalinda Naa Kai, who is still in studio with me. Now, you've taken us through some of the things that GA does in terms of approving budgets that are presented to the House. That's so interesting. And you reacted to the performance of the administration, the overall administration. Won't you react to the issue of the Women's Commission? Because yesterday, menstrual hygiene awareness, people said the student, she organized a seminar for students, but concerns were that she did not bring an expert. She was the one doing it together with the female executives, and they find that very worrying because they needed experts. They've seen past administrations bringing experts to them to speak to them on menstrual hygiene. Will you react to some of the concerns?
Okay. The Women's Commissioner. First of all, I would like to commend all her efforts and activities, that her initiatives that she's been able to put together. However, just like every other administration, you do not exactly expect everything to run smoothly. So you definitely have some ups and downs, and I think that is what, unfortunately, she found herself in a bit of a complication in terms of accounting and all that. Regardless of that fact, I mean, the issue was brought, whatever issue has come out is public knowledge now, and now everybody knows whatever has gone on. I still think that if she can convince the House and then the people of whatever her side of the story is, then she should go ahead, because it is her image that is at stake.
Interesting. Now we would have to go. Do you have anything that you would want to say? Anything that you want to clarify? Your last words.
Right. So I would like to encourage the student body, especially, to take particular interest, keen interest in the school's politics and account. Yes, because it is for their sake that the whatever the executives are doing, it is for their sake that whatever they are doing. So if you are doing something for me and I don't like it, it's probably because you've not shown interest or you've not really interacted. I heard from one of the voices that you played that the student said they haven't told us their financial budget, they haven't given us this. I'm like, it is also, I mean, if you are interested in it, then you are going to request for it. If you mount pressure on them, they'll have no reason or whatsoever or whatever excuse than to give you what you need, because you were the one who voted for them. And their reps too, they should hold their reps accountable. If you are holding them, if you are putting pressure on your reps, your reps will also channel your concerns to the House. A lot of the students do not show any concern. I remember when it's serious, it's very serious among students. When I was a General Assembly rep, I can disseminate a poll. I randomly enter people's DM, and a few people can testify to them. And that is before every GA meeting. I ask, do you have any challenges? Like, is there any thing like concern? The issues that were raised about the washrooms that I channeled to the General Assembly of the 15th General Assembly. That was my last representation. But now I'm a clerk, and so I can't really do much because I'm part of the leadership board. We only coordinate and ensure that things are being done in accordance to the interest in your school's activities, in the SRC activities, and then what your monies are being used for.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Rosalinda Naa Kai. She is the clerk of the 16th General Assembly, and she joined me in studio here for these wonderful and insightful discussions. I already said we're expecting the Financial Secretary to have a one-on-one interaction with her, but unfortunately, she had other emergencies to attend to. Better still, next time we are going to have her on the show and then clarify all the concerns that we need to understand so far as our financial resources is concerned. Once again, this is the leadership focus on Radio GIJ 97.7 MHz. We are not done with you still. We have a lot of programs, and up next is Drive Time with Peter Aboko. I was your host for this show, Ramat Bashiru. We are meeting tomorrow, same time, on the same radio station. Thank you for your company.